Okay, I'll be starting in just a minute, you guys. Oh, come on. This is why I needed a new computer in the first place. All right. I was really dragging my feet on getting ready for this one. Um, I was procrastinating for a long time when it came to getting ready, getting all my notes in order, because I was kind of dreading this one actually because I knew what I was going to have to do, and I didn't want to do that because once I opened those floodgates, there was no closing them. And in case you missed some of my Twitter comments, you know, well, if you missed those, then, well, in case you don't know, I'm talking about the Flash finale. And I have quite a few things to say about that. So, oh, God. Well, can't put this off any longer. So let's get to it. Season finale of The Flash. Episode 23, Fast Enough. Now that Team Flash has Harrison Wells / Eobard Thawne locked up, Barry decides to make a deal with him so he can travel back in time to save his mother, despite the very real danger that doing so could create a singularity that would literally mean the end of the world. To the shock of no one, this turns out to be a really, really bad idea. Oh boy. I have had a love-hate relationship with The Flash this season. I've not quite been on board with the people who seem to heap endless praise on it and call it the greatest thing ever, most awesome superhero show of all time, and blah, blah, blah. It's a good show. At times, it can even be a great show. But like every other show on television, it does have its share of problems. Now, I've talked about these problems many times. Iris, too much focus on a boring-ass love triangle between three people with no chemistry, really confusing time travel logic, Barry's power levels being inconsistent, Barry making the same mistakes over and over again, and by far the biggest offender this season, the fact that Barry is often made to look like a complete fucking idiot in order to keep the plot moving. And unfortunately, they saved the worst for last Because not only did that last one become a big damn problem in the season finale, it was magnified to such an enormous degree that the results were absolutely horrifying. But before we get into that, let me set the table for you guys, okay? Because apparently the stupid was contagious this week, and all the other characters were catching it. And I have quite a lot of examples of this. Quite a few examples. Number one, they lock up Harrison Wells in one of those particle accelerator cells. Why can't he just vibrate himself out of there? Because we know that he knows how to do that. He's the one who taught Barry how to do it. Now, if this cell was specially designed to somehow prevent him from doing that, fine. But there has to be a line that explains this. Otherwise, I'm just wondering why the hell he doesn't break out of there the second they leave him alone. 2, Caitlin doesn't know what a singularity is. Caitlin, the scientist, doesn't know what a singularity is, really. Really. I know what a singularity is, and believe me, I'm no scientist. Has Caitlin never read a physics textbook? Has she never seen a movie or read a science fiction novel? How do you get a job at fucking Star Labs when you don't know something as basic as this? What the fuck, man? Number 3, Joe says that Barry has no choice. I repeat, Joe, who, again, is supposed to be the level-headed character in this cast, says that Barry has no choice but to take Harrison Wells at his word and risk going back in time to save his mother. No choice. No choice? Barry has plenty of choice. For starters, he could choose not to trust the psychotic murderer who just said that he hates Barry and seems to have every reason in the world to lie about this in order to screw Barry over. Number 4, Caitlin says that Barry has never reached Mach 2 speed before. What? Never reached Mach 2 speed? What? Never reached Mach 2 speed. Back around mid-season, Barry ran fast enough to time travel. Again, I'm no scientist, so correct me if I'm wrong about any of this, but I believe that according to the theory of relativity, if Barry achieved time travel, that would mean that he was able to run faster than the speed of fucking light. And he told them all about this later on. They know he can run fast enough to time travel, but now suddenly he's never run fast enough to reach Mach 2 before? Kiss my ass! If you're interested, a simple Google search led me to a website that had a very handy miles per hour to Mach speed converter. And I actually looked this up, okay? Mach 2 speed, or more accurately, Mach 2.000769696942923 equals 1,535 miles per hour. The speed of light is 670,616,629 miles per hour, or approximately 186,282 miles per second. So according to Albert Einstein, in order to time travel, Barry would have had to exceed that speed at minimum. At minimum. But you expect me to believe that he's never even hit Mach 2. Who the fuck is the technical advisor on this show? Do they even have one? Because at this point, I would suspect not. Just a little consistency is all I'm asking for here, you know? I don't think that's unreasonable. But apparently, we've gone back to the limits of Barry's powers radically changing from week to week based on the needs of the plot. Fuck. But then, oh, but then, number 5. Something so stupid that it doesn't even qualify as stupid anymore. And it crosses into the realm of sheer, unadulterated lunacy. Barry has less than 2 minutes to pull off this big rescue. And then he decides to waste time having a fucking chit-chat with mommy when the fate of the world is hanging in the balance. More on that in a minute. As you can probably guess, I'm not happy. In many ways, I consider this the worst episode of the entire series because not only does it have many of the characters up to and including our lead character, the Flash, acting profoundly stupid on a multitude of levels, it also crosses the line into having Barry acting so unbelievably reckless and selfish and morally reprehensible that it's downright terrifying. He decides to trust the psychotic murderer who hates him and goes through with a procedure that, according to said psychotic murderer who hates him, will create a time travel wormhole with which he can go back in time and save someone who died 15 years ago. Okay? He does this even after learning about the very real danger that the slightest screw-up on his part could create a black hole in the middle of the city, which would then consume the entire planet Earth. And then he proceeds to go out of his way to royally screw up by taking time to have a conversation with his mom when they've already stressed several times that Barry has less than 2 minutes to pull this off. And if he doesn't, then it's the end of the fucking world. Literally, the end of the fucking world. Let no one say that I'm not being fair. All right? As the sum of its parts, this episode may be a catastrophic failure, but taken on their own, some of these parts were actually quite good. The opening scene with Barry and Wells, great scene. Tom Cavanaugh was terrific in that one. Barry has scenes with Joe and Iris and his dad where he's trying to decide what to do. And I thought these were all great scenes. They were emotional, poignant, well acted, especially the one with his dad. The problem is, in order to really enjoy them, you have to disregard the advice that Joe and Iris gave him. Joe tells him that he has no choice but to go through with this insane idea when he has all the choice in the world. Iris tells him to do what his heart tells him is right, when it's been very clearly established by now that Barry doesn't see things clearly and has piss-poor judgment when it comes to this matter. Barry should have told those two to fuck off and listen to his dad instead, because his dad was the only one actually talking sense in this whole fucking thing. He's telling Barry not to do this. Why? Because it's way too fucking dangerous, that's why. And all this shit happened for a reason. And if you go back 15 years and change the timeline, you have no idea what could happen. No way to predict how this could affect everything. You could end up making things worse for all you know. Hell, Professor Stein already explained to him about the potential ripple effect. There's just way too many variables here that you can't control. So his dad tells him not to do it because it's just too goddamn risky to try just on the off chance that Barry might be able to get his parents back. And that was before they learned about the possibility that this could create a fucking black hole. And you know what? Barry's dad is right. 100% right. But no, because Barry just wants his mommy so much after living without her for 15 fucking years and seeming to have a pretty nice life, all things considered, he decides to go through with this. He decides to trust Harrison Wells without having any real assurance that Wells might be planning to screw him over somehow. You would think that Barry would be a little more cautious about this business of trusting the bad guys after he trusted Captain Cold just last week and had that blow up in his face. But apparently, Barry has learned absolutely nothing from that experience. So they put this whole plan into action. And until now, everything was still redeemable, in my opinion. There was still time for Barry to come to his senses and realize how insane this all is. But then we reach the point of no return. The point in the episode where Barry crosses the line from stupidity to terrifyingly reckless endangerment of the entire human race. They figure out that there is a possibility that creating this wormhole through time could result in the creation of a singularity, a black hole in the middle of Central City if things go awry. Bear in mind, they're doing all this based on the information Harrison Wells has given them, a man they still have no concrete reason to trust in any way, shape, or form, a man who killed Barry's mother, killed a number of other people, and might very well just be completely out of his fucking mind. If Barry was the hero that he's supposed to be, then the second he learned about this black hole possibility, the second he heard the words black hole in Central City, he would have put a stop to the whole fucking thing right then and there. If there was even the slightest, most microscopic possibility that fucking this up could result in a black hole, which, let me stress to you, would be an extinction-level event, then Barry should have shut the whole operation down and never given it a second thought. That's what Oliver would have done. That's what Daredevil would have done. That's what the Avengers would have done. That's what a real superhero would have done. But for some reason, Barry decides, fuck the risk, fuck the black hole, let's do it anyway. Just so we're all 100% clear on this, based solely on information given to him by an insane madman, Barry put the safety and future of the entire human race at stake. He literally risked the destruction of the planet Earth, all because he wanted his mommy. Oh my God. And believe it or not, it actually gets worse. They figure out that Barry has exactly 1 minute and 52 seconds to pull this off, to save his mother and get the hell out of there, or else the stable wormhole becomes a black hole which will consume the entire fucking planet. Okay? No one thinks to give Barry, I don't know, a stopwatch or a timer of some kind, something to show him exactly how much time he has before he causes the genocide of the human race. Jesus Christ, of all the details to not think of. And it was so easy. Hell, I could do that with my iPod. Look, 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 look. See this? See that right there? See that? Look. If this timer reaches 0 before you get back to the present, you've murdered the entire human race and destroyed the Earth. Was that so fucking hard? So even though Barry knows that he has a very brief window in which to pull this off, even though he has no way of knowing when that window is closed unless he's counting down the seconds in his head, which ideally you'd want something a hell of a lot more precise than that, Barry then decides, fuck the human race, fuck the planet Earth, I don't give a shit if I'm risking the safety and future of all life as I know it. I'm going to take this time to have a leisurely heart-to-heart with Mom, not even giving a rat's ass if it takes over 1 minute and 52 seconds. Oh, and by the way, it did. And how do I know that? Because I watched it again and I timed it with this. And don't even try to explain this away as some kind of dramatic device or relative time scale where it seems longer to the viewers, but to the characters it's only been like 30 seconds or some bullshit like that. That doesn't work. You know why? Because the whole scene plays out in real time. That's fucking why. From the moment Barry arrives in the past to the moment he finishes his conversation with his mother and she dies, approximately 3 minutes and 1.8 seconds have passed. That means that even though Barry knew he had no time to spare and had to do this as quickly as possible, he still managed to sentence the entire human race to extinction by farting around with his mom, causing him to miss his window by almost 70 fucking seconds. How the fuck do you let this happen? The way this scene was constructed was so asinine. Simple storytelling logic pretty much demands that this sequence be a race against time, where everyone is counting down from a minute 52, and we're watching the seconds tick away, and the tension is at a fever pitch, with you biting your fingernails in anticipation because you don't know if Barry's going to make it in time, and the fate of the world is at stake if he fails. Instead, they decide that it was more dramatically satisfying to let Barry waste time having a heart-to-heart with Mommy Dearest and being completely fucking oblivious when the time has run out, thus causing the creation of a black hole that will consume the entire goddamn planet. And then, and then, the coup de grace, the final slap in the face. Not only does Barry not save his mother, failing to do the one thing he put the entire world at risk for in the first fucking place, but the black hole is created anyway, meaning that Barry Allen just potentially doomed all of mankind for absolutely fucking nothing. Our hero, ladies and gentlemen! And to cap this whole fucking thing off, his brilliant plan to stop this black hole before it eats the entire world is basically just to run around it really fast. You know, like how he diffused that tornado in the pilot. Once again, I'm no scientist, but you don't have to be a scientist to call bullshit on this. You don't have to be a scientist to know that there's a big difference between running really fast to create a wind current strong enough to stop a small tornado and somehow running fast enough to stop a goddamn black hole. Black holes don't fucking work that way, you morons! The only way that could possibly work would be if Barry ran fast enough to travel back in time to the day before, like he did in that mid-season episode, and stopped himself from ever going through with this lunatic bullshit plan to begin with. Science was not my best subject in school, okay? Far from it. But if even I can poke a million holes in this, if even I can point out all the reasons why this is a load of crap, that means you done fucked up. Big time. And it doesn't stop there. There were a bunch of other things about this episode that either left me really confused or just made no fucking sense at all. Eobard Thawne says that he was born 136 years in the future, and that in that future, him and Barry are mortal enemies. Well, unless Barry somehow lives to be 200 or older, how the hell does that work? Is Barry going to travel into the future and get stuck there at some point? I hope not, because I've had all the bullshit time travel physics I can take at this point. Next, when Barry travels back to the past, why didn't he take the place of his younger self? You know, like he did the first time he traveled back to the past. You already established that this is what happens when Barry time travels. He jumps into the body of his younger self, or trades places with his younger self, or some bullshit like that. And yet, for some reason, this time it doesn't work that way. This time, Barry and his younger self, and his older self too for that matter, remain three separate people with no body swapping or whatever the fuck happening at all. Why? Because the plot demands it. That's fucking why. Doesn't matter that it completely goes against the rules that you'd previously established. We need it to happen this way, so we're going to write it this way, even though it makes no goddamn sense at all. Fuck you. Next, when Eddie kills himself to kill all his descendants, including Eobard, to stop Eobard from murdering everyone, why is Eobard erased from existence, but not any of the things that he's done? Eobard Thawne never existed now. which would mean that he never killed Barry's mother, which would mean that Barry didn't become the Flash when he did, so he never went back in time to save his mother, never created the black hole, but somehow all that stuff still happened anyway? How? What the fuck is going on? How the hell can you erase Eobard Thawne, but not the timeline that he was directly responsible for creating? What kind of sense does that make? Jesus H. Christ, the number of plot holes and inconsistencies and things that don't make sense about this is baffling to me. Baffling. And the whole thing happened in the first place because Barry Allen was so stupid and so unimaginably reckless that he decided to put the fate of the human race and the entire world in jeopardy for purely selfish reasons. Go to hell, Barry. If someone could give me a gun and magically transport me into the DCU, I would put a bullet in Barry's fucking head and people would call me a goddamn hero for doing it. How anyone, any person, in any walk of life could possibly sympathize with what Barry did here is beyond me. This was unthinkable. Risking the entire human race in an unbelievably dangerous mission to save one person where the risks outweigh the benefits by factors so huge you can't even conceive them, taking zero precautions or safety measures in case things somehow go wrong, and then having no plan whatsoever in case the worst case scenario happens, thus ensuring that he's completely unprepared when the worst case scenario does fucking happen. No lie. Total honesty, I was genuinely horrified by Barry's actions here. So much so that it made me want to never watch this show again. It was that bad. You know who the real hero of this show turned out to be? Eddie Thawne. Eddie Thawne, who sacrificed himself in order to stop a murdering psychopath from killing the man who Eddie knew was destined to marry the woman Eddie loves. An act of pure, selfless altruism that Barry Allen could never even dream of. Eddie Thawne went out like a goddamn hero, and yet Barry Allen, the man directly responsible for nearly dooming all of mankind due to his own fucking selfishness, is the one who's going to get statues built in his honor. What the fuck is the justice in that? Okay. A few other little tidbits I guess I should mention. They confirm the multiverse. Every action creates a separate parallel universe theory in regards to time travel, which I guess explains how Cisco remembered getting killed by Wells. All right, fine. It's too Star Trek for my taste, but whatever. It seems those dreams were the precursor to Cisco getting his powers from the comics. That's fine with me. Unlike Barry, Cisco remained a likable character up to the end of the finale, so sure, give him powers and let him be a superhero. He couldn't possibly fuck it up any worse than Barry did. All this apparently started because Eobard Thawne learned Barry's real name in the future, and that was a big enough deal that he went back in time like 200 years to kill Barry as a child and cause this whole mess to begin with. I would have an easier time buying into that if Captain Cold hadn't previously learned Barry's secret identity quite easily. I don't know why it was so hard for Thawne to find out. Captain Cold didn't seem to have much of a problem with it. In the time tunnel, we see a future image of Caitlin as Killer Frost. Not the direction I was hoping they'd go with her, but that's the least of my complaints at this point. And it does nevertheless have a basis in the comics, so fine. We see the helmet of Jay Garrick, the original Flash. Cool callback, but Garrick didn't seem to exist in this universe as far as I can tell, so who the hell knows what's going on with that? Caitlin and Ronnie get married, despite the fact that they've had probably less than 10 scenes together all season, despite the fact that they still display virtually no on-screen chemistry, despite the fact that we have very little, if any, emotional investment in them getting back together. And then to twist the knife just a little bit more, Barry watches them get married, and for some reason this makes him unhappy and he has to look away when they kiss. So I don't know if this was the writers teasing the Snowberry pairing again by continuing to dangle the carrot in front of the fans who want that to happen, or them just trying to have their cake and eat it too. But ultimately, it just felt like they were toying with us, and holy Christ, did they pick the wrong fucking episode to do that. So to wrap this up, no, I did not like this. Quite frankly, this was a fucking nightmare. They committed complete and utter character assassination on Barry Allen, turning him into someone so unimaginably careless, reckless, stupid, and selfish that he couldn't put his own desires aside long enough to realize that risking an extinction-level event was probably not something that he should do under any fucking circumstances. And I cannot believe some of the reviews I've been reading about this. A rating, 4 stars. IGN gave it a 9.7 out of 10, to which I asked, what the fuck were those people smoking when they watched this? Jesus fuck. They had a chance to do something really great with this finale. And instead, they turned it into a horrifying reminder of the inherent flaws of the series and the writers' baffling determination not to improve upon and correct those flaws, but to magnify them to the point where they completely destroy everything they'd created. If that was your ultimate goal, Flash writers, mission fucking accomplished. Twitter questions. I said, no choice. There's plenty of choice. For starters, Barry could choose not to trust the psychotic murderer who hates him. At Just Kyle MC says, it's almost as if Captain Cole didn't betray him the episode before. Yeah. Yeah, it's the same situation, essentially. Barry trusts a criminal, a villain that he has no reason to trust, no reason to think won't screw him over, and has no contingency plan in place for when that does happen. So he learned absolutely nothing from that experience with Captain Cold. Absolutely fucking nothing. At Pedro Lunian says, did Eobard Thawne say that he was born 136 years from now and that he's Flash's enemy? What, is Barry immortal? I don't know. I don't know. What is... I have no clue. I'm as lost as you are, dude. No clue. I said, he trusts a psychopath, risks an extinction-level event just to save someone who died 20 years ago. Barry Allen, you fucking bastard. At Pedro Lunian says, he tells Iris he had a great life living with her and Joe. Why risk the planet? I don't know. He seems to have had a really good life despite his mother being murdered and his dad being sent to jail. And just so he can stop those two things from happening, he thinks that's worth risking the entire human race. I said, I guess the moral of the episode is that Barry is a selfish bastard who put his own desires over the safety of the entire world. At Pedro Lunian says, this is why I hate the time-traveling solution. No hero or villain should have that power. I agree. You know, stuff like this is why I didn't want them to do the time travel stuff in the first place. Because ultimately, you're going to run into problems like this. You're gonna run into like circular logic and causality loops and stuff that is just really hard to explain. And ultimately, you're just gonna run into a whole mess of plot holes. And frankly, they're already doing that. At Pedro Lunian says, perhaps they confused Bart with Barry, and did we see Jay Garrick's helmet? I assumed it was Jay Garrick's helmet. Confused Bart with Barry? Possibly. Although even if it was Bart, I think he would still be. I'm still not sure the timeline would match up. I mean, Bart is Barry's grandson, isn't he? So. Yeah, I mean, we're still talking like 200 years. No, I don't think. I don't know. I don't think that would work. That still wouldn't be far enough in the future to account for Eobard Thawne thinking he was Barry. No. Or was it Jace Allen's helmet? He's from the future. Oh, dude, I don't know. I really don't know. Okay. You guys want to sound off on the Flash finale? Do it now in the comments. Let's see what you guys thought about this shit fest. That giving asshole. God, he sounds so sad. Sad, livid, furious. Take your pick. You want to discuss Mad Max 4? I actually haven't seen it. I heard it's really damn good. I don't know. I saw the trailers. It didn't look very interesting to me. And plus, I'm kind of burned out on action movies in general. Apparently, it's way better than the trailers made it look, so I may have to see it at this point. I figure I'll probably see Tomorrowland first, because I think that premieres tomorrow, actually. But yeah, I'll probably see. I may see Mad Max Fury Road at some point, but I haven't seen it yet. Okay, the Save Me won. I think what happened was Caitlin and Ronnie stopped the black hole, but that thing that showed up at the end was a time paradox. No, not so, because as I explained, Barry took over 1 minute and 52 seconds in the past. He didn't get back in time. They very clearly laid out that if he didn't get back within 1 minute 52 seconds, black hole. He was almost 70 seconds late. That's how long he was in the past for. In a scene that played out in real time. That's what caused the black hole. Unless they do some serious retconning. Eddie kills himself, so the Reverse Flash was never born, meaning Barry's mom, the real Dr. Wells, and his wife should still be alive, among many other things, caused a rip in the space-time continuum. The problem here is that there is no way the show can be the same if there are not things that are different. This will be a huge jump the shark moment. It's hard for me to judge this episode of The Flash. Almost everything depends on what happens next season. Well, yeah, time paradox, whatever. You may have a point there, but again, they said black hole. If you don't get back within 1 minute 52, black hole. Barry spent over 1 minute and 52 seconds in the past, so unless they retcon the shit out of this, that's what fucking happened. Duke Nukem 3DO. Are you being way too hard? You're being way too hard on the Flash. Just enjoy the show, please. You don't have to nitpick everything. No offense. Louis V6 says exactly. I'm nitpicking. Is that what I'm fucking doing? Did you not listen to everything I just said? This isn't nitpicking. These are very real criticisms. And I think I'm 100% justified in thinking this. The Save Me won. I knew Eddie would kill himself to take down the Reverse Flash. As soon as Eddie found out that Barry was the Flash, the writing was on the wall. Plus, it was the best way to end the love triangle and have Eddie's death mean something. It opens up a lot of questions, but still means something. Man of Shadows, two minds think alike. Well, I knew about the possibility of Eddie killing himself, but my thing was, if he did that, that would basically mean they'd have no show. Because if he kills himself, he stops Eobard Thawne from ever existing, which means Eobard Thawne would never have gone back in time to kill Barry, end up killing Barry's mother, would end up creating the particle accelerator, which would create the Flash years before he was supposed to be created. And he wouldn't have changed this changes the timeline, which means the whole premise of the show never exists. And yet somehow it does. And it makes no fucking sense. There were consequences and ripple effects attached to what Eddie did, killing himself. So they went with Eddie killing himself, but then they ignored all the ripple effects and consequences, apparently, because... Oh! That gaming asshole. A minor complaint, I know, but if I may, let me point out how black holes don't work like that, Flash. Here we go. A wormhole is a fold in space and time, effectively a bridge between 2 points, which is why it is normally called an Einstein-Rosen bridge. Its topographical feature of the universe, a black hole which shares nothing but the word hole, is a singular point in time, hence singularity. Although singularity is used to describe other events like monopoles and such like too, and is a point where an immense amount of mass, like a dying star, becomes so massive that light can't escape its gravity well. The difference between a wormhole and a black hole is the difference between a hole in a piece of fabric and a crease in it. There definitely is stuff on the other side of the wormhole since it leads to somewhere else, but a black hole is just that, a hole, an empty crater in space. More so, black holes don't spin like whirlpools. The ascension disk around one spins, but that's because it's being sucked into oblivion. It's also so incredibly hot that if one were hovering over any city on Earth, the entire surface of the planet would be reduced to cinders and radioactive ash. Also, a black hole does not spin because it is by default stationary, like, a fucking hole. If you think holes can spin, you're sadly mistaken, Flash writers. Ironically, wormholes do spin, but not in that way. They spin like a planet spins because the spatial event is spherical in shape, so even then it's not a whirlpool, it's just a rounded feature rotating on its poles like a ball spinning on your finger. I'm a dork, so I learned all of this instead of kissing girl folk on the mouth as a boy. You know what? They should hire you for their technical advisor, because I'm pretty sure they don't have one. The Save Me won. Agree. Caitlin and Ronnie have no chemistry. Here's hoping that every time changes happen, that marriage gets ripped apart. It seems like they're going for some kind of Flashpoint thing where the timeline is going to be altered irrevocably. Maybe that'll be one of the ripple effects that Caitlin and Ronnie won't end up getting married. I don't know, but it's... Ugh. At this point, why even bother with it? Was there any emotional investment in Caitlin and Ronnie? If there was, I wasn't privy to it. Detox 12. Finale and episode before that was some of the laziest writing I've seen. Didn't notice anything like that at all in the other episodes. My initial reaction after watching the episode before the finale, they turned Barry Allen into a dumbass. My initial reaction after the finale, they turned Barry Allen into an emotional dumbass. Thank you very much. Adam, what did you think of the effects in the episode? Uh, the visual effects were great. I mean, they always are on this show. I mean, I have complaints about Flash from a creative writing standpoint, but the visual effects are always top notch. Probably some of the best on television. And this was no different. I mean, the effects are always terrific on the Flash. Technically, it's a very impressive series. So I have no complaints in that department. Terp 28. Barry's mission this whole time has been to clear his father of his mother's murder. That said, they have video surveillance of the prisoner cells. Couldn't they have just recorded Barry's conversation with Wells where he confessed to the murder and given it to the police? Yes, they could have. They could have done that, especially since there was an episode just a few weeks ago where they were trying to get him to confess to that murder. They were trying to get him to say it, and Joe was like, "No, that's not an omission. We have to actually get him to say it." They were trying to get him to say it, and now they have him on video saying that he killed Barry's mother. What? Why can't they? They could just give that to the fucking police. Now, granted, I don't know if that would be admissible in court, since he's also saying that he time traveled back from to like 136 years in the future or whatever the fuck it was. But I mean, it's still an admission of guilt. It might count for something. They could try it. Oh boy. Oh boy. That giving asshole. If I were to hazard a guess, maybe he couldn't vibrate through the cage because he was out of Speed Force energy, I guess. Probably not. I would guess not, because later on, at the end of the episode, he was fighting Barry at super speed. So he was still like charged up. So I don't know what happened there. As for the Mach 2 thing, that is so absurd, it almost doesn't need to be addressed. Anything moving at Mach 2, creating a wormhole, would be so asinine, it's like saying you can time travel by hitting 88 miles per hour. Thank you! So I'm not the only one who noticed this. He took his sweet time saving his mom, didn't he? Yes, he fucking did. Did she literally die because he was taking so long to talk to her? Because he could have surely run to a hospital in that time, yeah? Yes, he could have! I would imagine so. My mom was screaming at the screen for him to hurry up, which was hilarious, but still, hurry the fuck up, Barry. What was his plan B here anyway? Assuming this whole thing succeeded without any problems at all, what was the plan B? I don't think he had a plan B, which is one of the most unnerving parts about all of this. Wouldn't he then have ceased to exist or something? I guess, but the thing is, they established in this episode by Zoom's own words that these alternate timelines are different worlds. That makes sense. In the many worlds interpretation of quantum mechanics, every time we make a conscious choice with more than one possible outcome, it creates an alternate timeline where we made the opposite choice. So that means that time travel and interdimensional travel are effectively one and the same. But then he thinks he can change the past, knowing that the past would not change for him, but for some other version of himself from a different universe that he'll never meet or know. When he returns home, she'll still be dead and he'll still remember her death, so nothing would change, right? I don't know. I honestly don't know anymore, man. I'm pretty sure they're just making this stuff up as they go along at this point. But yeah, you raise very good points, and it seems like stuff that they never thought of. And yet he seems to also say that Barry can change the past, so make up your minds, Flash writers. Which is it, timeline theory or many worlds? They're mutually exclusive theories of time and space. Thank you very much. Detox 12. Oh, and how could I forget how Cisco magically knew that they had 36 hours before the particle accelerator turned on from that future energy source, literally right after he said he had no idea what the power source was. That's another one. That pissed me off so much. Holy shit, Christberg. Yeah, that was another one. I have no explanation. That gaming asshole, I'm sorry, I meant accretion disk, not ascension disk. That's not even a word. Excuse my brain fart. It's cool. It's cool. I don't even know what either of those are. So you're good. The Save Me one. Out of the 5 superhero shows, Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., Arrow, Daredevil, Flash, and Gotham, how would you rank their seasons from best to worst? Oh boy. Oh god. You know what? I'm going to come back to this one. I need to think about that for a minute. That gaming asshole. I didn't even realize that, but you're right. Why didn't they give him a stopwatch or just a smartphone to keep time on? That makes no fucking sense. Yes! Yes! Fucking... All he needed was a fucking iPod! Does Barry not have a watch with a timer on it? Or a fucking... A fucking iPod! How do you not think to bring something like that? Just to tell you how much time you have left. What the Coastal Edius, Angry FK equals livestream gold. I'm happy I could amuse you. That gaming asshole. It would appear he assumes the form of his alternate self, since time travel here works on the many worlds interpretation of quantum physics, unless it doesn't, and then it works on the timeline theory, which presumes time is linear and only one possible future and past exist. Either one is valid technically, since we have no idea until some genius makes time travel or interdimensional travel a possibility. If it's many worlds, then killing Eddie would not kill Zoom, but if it's timeline theory, then there would be no alternate timelines at all. So I got no clue what they're even trying to fucking do here. Stakes so high you can't conceive them. That's my new catchphrase. 4 out of 10, and I'm being generous. Yeah, like I said, I think they're just making this shit up as they go along now. I don't think they're trying to conform to one theory or the other. Clearly, technical accuracy is not at the top of their to-do list. Strippin 19. So here are a few thoughts I had. First, I agree with the Save Me One's theory about the second wormhole. Second, the metahuman that was on Arrow and then got shot in the face last week is named Deathbolt, according to Charlie. I looked him up on Wikipedia. I keep telling you to go there if you're curious about who characters are, if you're unfamiliar with their origins, and he seems to check out. Third, I said in the first or second Flash live stream you did that Wells created the Flash earlier than he was supposed to exist. Just thought I'd throw that out there. Okay. Okay. So doesn't that mean that if Wells never existed and never created the Flash when he did, that means that Barry would not be the Flash yet and therefore would not have created this black hole in the first place? How on earth is all this supposed to work? I'm so... This episode gave me a fucking migraine. That gaming asshole. I think Barry is still hot, pun intended, on Caitlin, which is bad, seeing as how she's going to become Queen Elsa eventually. Actually, having said that, no, it's not a bad thing. I guess. I assume they were hinting at Barry having a thing for Caitlin. I don't know what else that could possibly mean. I mean, I actually went back and watched this again. They have Barry, Caitlin, and Ronnie doing the wedding kiss, and then they pan directly over to Barry, who's looking kind of unhappy, and he just sort of looks away like he doesn't want to watch it. What else could that possibly signify? And yet they seem to be going full bore with this Barry Iris stuff now. It's make up your fucking minds. Which one is it? Monte Dada. Knew you were gonna hate it. Knew you were gonna hate it. Haha. Personally, I loved it and geeked out at the last 30 minutes. Even though, when you really think about it, there are some holes, and Barry going back in time doesn't make too much sense. It's a network comic book show after all. It entertained the shit out of me. What you think about most review sites and fans praising it? IGN gave it a 9.7 out of 5. AV Club gave it a grade A, which they rarely do. I wildly disagree. Those were two of the reviews I cited earlier. The finale seems to be drawing like pretty much universal acclaim, and I don't understand it for the life of me. There were so many problems with this episode, and yet every critic is just gushing with praise for it. It's just I don't get it. Adam, do you think you're the only one who had a problem with this episode? It seems like everyone else liked it, including me. I can't be the only one. I can't be the only one. Somewhere out there has to be someone who agrees with me about what bullshit this episode was. Lucky STR8. I understand your views, but in IGN's defense, they gave Call of Duty a 10 out of 10 every year, even though it's the same game. Okay, maybe somebody paid them off or something. I don't know. Okay. That giving asshole. The black hole that close to Earth, forgot to mention, would have killed us all anyway, since black holes slowly evaporate into Hawking radiation, which would reduce any world within several light hours into lifeless rocks with the same amount of habitable land as Mercury. The fact that everyone didn't instantly get fried or die of radiation damage from the black hole means it must still have been a wormhole, I guess. Who wrote this shit? Well, again, I'm pretty sure they don't care about the science. If they did care about the science, then I guess it must have been a wormhole. That would be the only way to explain why they didn't die of all these things that you talk about. But that doesn't explain. But if that's the case, then where the fuck is the black hole? Because, again, he didn't get back in time to stop the black hole from happening. He spent nearly 70 seconds longer than he should have in the past. That means black fucking hole. So if that was the wormhole, then where the fuck is the black hole then? Nothing about this makes any sense at all. Lucky STR8. Come to think of it, everything that happens in Flash Comics basically leads to a DC Comics reboot because of bad writing, i.e. Flashpoint, leads to New 52 being the latest example. Yeah, I never read Flashpoint. I assume they're doing a version of that storyline. As I understand it, Flashpoint was a story that was not very well received. So if they're basing it on that, maybe that would explain a few things about why there are so many holes and problems with this one. Professor 84. I believe that a lot of people liked the finale because they got caught up in the tear-jerking acting and not the things that you had just pointed out. I believe that they can improve the show in time for season 2. I sure hope so. Plenty of shows have creative upswings in the second season. Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. did it. Arrow did it. Not to say they were bad in the first season, but they got progressively much better in season 2, and it's certainly possible that Flash can do it. Excuse me. But how on earth you recover from what they did in the finale, I don't know. I really don't know. That giving asshole. I believe the implication is that Barry is capable of living that long due to his mutations, but then again, it's likely the writers are just retarded. I assume it's going to be some kind of weird time travel, temporal physics bullshit explanation. I mean, the Flash living longer due to his powers, that's a new one for me. I never heard of that before. I'm guessing it'll be some kind of time travel thing. Like maybe somehow they open a stable wormhole anyway, and allows him to go wherever and whenever the fuck he wants in time and space, and who the hell knows? NJ Brady, I made it to this week's live stream, and oh boy, you were on fire this week. As much as I want you to enjoy the show, I love the passion and the emotion you shared about what this show has given to you. Thank you very much. Yeah, this episode filled me with anger, but at least it's nice to have this outlet to expunge that. And if I manage to entertain some of you, that's good. Monty Dada, will you do a Game of Thrones season review? I probably will. I think I did one last year. So I think when the season is over, I'll do a stream and I'll talk about it. And you should watch Hannibal. Amazing show. My favorite on all of TV right now since Breaking Bad is over. You know, I've heard really good things about Hannibal. It's not really the kind of show I usually watch. So I don't know. I don't have much of an interest in watching it, even though I hear it's really good. Even with Breaking Bad, it took me a long time to get into that one. You know, for years, I always heard like great things about Breaking Bad. It's amazing. It's the best show on television, one of the best dramas ever made. And I was like, whatever. It's just not my thing. Until finally, the hype about it got so huge that eventually I just said, okay, you know what? I have to see this. I have to see what all the fuss is about. And it was, ironically, it was like right around the time that the series finale aired. So I binged watched the entire series of Breaking Bad within like 2 or 3 weeks. And at that point, I was like, you know what? Yeah, I can see what all the fuss is about now. And it's not wrong. This is a great show. So maybe if I get to a point like that with Hannibal, I might check it out. But at this point, I'm still at a place where I'm like, you know what? I don't need to see this. I hear it's a great show, and if it is awesome, it's just not my thing. If the hype about it gets really big, maybe I'll check it out. See, Strippin 19. So it looks like we might be getting Killer Frost next season, or at least in an alternate reality version, since we saw a version of Caitlin with really blonde hair and intense, almost glowing blue eyes when Barry was running around the particle accelerator. And from what I've heard, next season Team Flash will be dealing with people from alternate realities who were sucked up by the wormhole and stuck in this universe after Barry stops it. Yeah, I've heard that too. It's possible that the Killer Frost that we saw could be an alternate reality version of Caitlin. So that could be a way of getting around that. I could see them doing something like that, yeah. I did hear about the producers talking about that. Apparently next season they're gonna have a new storytelling engine where they can go to like alternate timelines and alternate dimensions and realities and weird, kooky, high concept stuff like that. So maybe we could be seeing like alternate reality versions of Caitlin and Cisco and stuff where they're vibing Killer Frost and all sorts of weird things. So yeah, that's possible. That gaming asshole. It'd probably not be admissible because he's under duress or something. Possibly. They could also they could explain his time travel story by saying he's a psychopath. They have delusions and shit all the time, so why not? But it still probably wouldn't work. Yeah, I think it would be worth trying at least. But yeah, once they got to the part where he says he went back in time, I doubt it would be admissible. But still, I mean, they could try it. They got nothing to lose by trying it. Rots 112. I got this weird feeling that Eddie's body will be found in another world and he'll be treated or revived. I don't know. I don't know why they wouldn't put so much attention on leaving his body there. Yeah, it's possible. Or I guess they could do a thing where they go to some alternate timeline or reality and find a different version of Eddie Thawne there, and then maybe bring him into this one, possibly. Maybe that would explain why the timeline didn't disappear or change when Wells was erased. Because they're going to find a new version of Eddie that could take the old Eddie's place, possibly. Maybe. Who knows? All right. Other stuff. Oh, wait a minute. We got more. That gaming asshole. Caitlin can't be with Firestorm, though, because Firestorm's love interest for a short while in the comics was Firehawk before she died. If memory serves, she's basically a hot version of the Human Torch, pun intended. Well, they could deviate from the comics. I mean, Arrow has certainly done that. I don't get why this episode received such high praise either. It seems like the writers really went off the reservation here. Thank you very much. I don't get it either. Adam, can Gotham get better in season 2? Well, it couldn't get much worse. That's the nice thing about being in the position Gotham is in right now. There's really no place to go but up. Lucky STR8. Am I the only one thinking how the Flash finale is going to affect Arrow? I don't know if it has to, really. I mean, clearly, in those final moments, they were setting up some things for the Legends of Tomorrow spinoff. And well, we know that Sarah is going to be revived and be a part of that show. So I guess some events could affect Arrow somehow. I would assume that we'd see Sarah get revived on Flash, on Arrow possibly next season, and you do like a little crossover there. Otherwise, I'm not really sure how it has to affect Arrow that much. The Save Me one. Did you see the new behind-the-scenes photos of the Joker? What do you think of Jared Leto's look? I have seen some behind-the-scenes photos. There seems to be a discrepancy between the first shot that we saw of him and the new behind-the-scenes stuff. Maybe it's just because he's wearing clothes in the behind-the-scenes stuff, so we didn't see all the tattoos. I have mixed feelings. I wasn't sure what to make of Heath Ledger's look at first either, but so I'm trying to keep an open mind about it. But I don't know. It seems like they're kind of going a little bit gangsta, for lack of a better word, with the Joker. It's a different take on the Joker that I don't think I've seen before. Right now I'm completely undecided about it. I mean, Jared Leto's an Oscar-winning actor, so I mean, he's got the chops to pull it off. But until I see what their interpretation of the character is exactly, I'm really undecided. I'm gonna wait until I see a trailer at least. Um, Still, I have reservations. I mean, Heath Ledger's Joker was so iconic, and it really hasn't been that long since The Dark Knight. I mean, it feels like it's too soon for this. And to have it in a Suicide Squad movie instead of a new Batman movie, it just seems like they're kind of rushing this, and they've got a really strange interpretation of it. I don't know. It could be good. They've got a good actor playing him, so I'm crossing my fingers and I'm gonna wait. I'm gonna wait and see right now, and that's all I've really got. That giving asshole. I just realized something. How did Zoom not cease to exist as soon as he put Barry in a coma with the reactor explosion? If altering the timeline changes the future, and then his actions made Iris fall for Eddie, who is not married to her in his timeline, then he could have immediately vanished since his ancestors would not have been conceived by Eddie and Iris, right? Or at least he should have come back. He should have become black. Well, there's no. Well, I don't think it was ever explicitly stated that Iris was Thawne's ancestor. I mean, Eddie could have had kids with another woman. I mean, no one was saying that he had to have kids with Iris. I mean, it could have been with someone else. In fact, I always assumed that it was with someone else. I mean, logically, the very act of killing Barry's mom should have erased both from time, since that would make the Flash's whole past different, and Iris and his relationship would change wildly. So would Eddie's. Same as above, but earlier. And that's before we question how Flash became the Flash without the reactor exploding if there was no Zoom in that timeline. My mind. Yeah, dude, I don't know. I just don't. It's like the more threads you pull on this, the less sense it makes. It's just a big confusing mess, and I have no way to explain it. I really don't. Okay. That gaming asshole. Oh shit, Lucky STR8 is right. This has to have some effect on Arrow too. Oh Jesus. Monty Dada. I think the one reason The Flash gets so much love is because it takes a lot of inspiration from the comics, to the point that you could even call it an adaptation of the Flash comics. Fans love the comic Easter eggs and small hints. Me being a huge comic reader and Flash fan, I think that's why I love the show so much. Also, this is why so many fans were turned off by Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. It had barely any inspiration from the comics. The first season and almost all characters were brand new. That is also one of the reasons why I can't get into AOS. Also, I feel nothing for the main characters, and sadly still can't get into the show after giving it giving it a try numerous times. Okay, I've heard that criticism about S.H.I.E.L.D., how some people got turned off because it wasn't really following the comics and was doing using like new characters and stuff. But the thing is, that's never what the show was supposed to be about. I mean, I think they were pretty clear about what the show was before it premiered. It was about Coulson and a team of S.H.I.E.L.D. agents who we were told were all new characters. And to be fair, I mean, they have started incorporating storylines from the comics. I mean, they're doing the origin of the Inhumans. And that was like one of the biggest parts of season 2 was the origin of the Inhumans, and it's going to continue being a part of the show next season. You know, they incorporated Hydra. You know, that's been one of the big plot points too. So you have been using characters. I mean, the stories from the comics. They have used characters from the comics too. We saw a bunch of those this season. You know, Absorbing Man and Whiplash and fucking John Garrett was a character from the comics. Daisy Johnson, Mr. Hyde. I mean, they've been pretty good about that this season, in my opinion. And I guess Flash does. They have been adapting stories from the comics. Some have been better than others. I would argue that them trying to do Flashpoint was a miserable failure, but it is a comics storyline nevertheless. So I guess you're gonna love it or you're gonna hate it. Lucky STR8. Off topic, but the Kingpin and Daredevil gave me Freddy Krueger vibes from Freddy versus Jason, in that you don't mention his name or else bad things happen. Yeah, I never thought of that before, but yeah, there were some similarities there. What if the Flash crosses over with the Flash from the 90s show? It says different universes and comic logic. Oh, God. And this is the same actor, John Wesley Shipp, played that Flash and now plays Barry's dad in this show. Holy shit. That might be worth doing just for the sheer mindfuckery alone. Oh, man. I kind of want to see them do that now. Why the fuck not? Okay. All right. Let's see. All the stuff we missed. Going back to the bottom here. Feel. Okay. Going into other topics now. For all the stuff I missed. Duke Nukem 3DO. I know it's off topic, but can you talk about Destination America possibly canceling TNA? I don't think there's much to talk about. Bob Ryder basically went on Twitter and said this was bullshit. TNA just a few hours ago issued an official statement saying that it was bullshit and they were pursuing legal action against Meltzer for saying it was true. And right now, it's nothing but a completely unsubstantiated rumor. And it's not the first time something like this has happened. Remember a while back when TNA was for sale? What happened with that? Nothing. And this is why I just don't listen to anything Meltzer says, because he said so much stuff about TNA, and it's never true. At least not the stuff that I've heard from him. So I've pretty much resolved to not listen to anything about this rumor until such time that it actually happens. Because until I see an official statement that Destination America is officially canceling Impact Wrestling, then I just refuse to believe it's true. Because I'll believe it if and when it happens, and not a second before. Because until then, it's nothing but a rumor. It's just Meltzer making stuff up again. Now TNA have issued the statement, saying, yeah, it's bullshit, and we're going to sue him if he continues with this defamation or whatever it's of. So that told me all I needed to hear. If it's true, it's true. Until I see concrete proof that it's true, I'm going to assume that it's not. Okay, save me one. Out of the 5 superhero shows, Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., Arrow, Daredevil, Flash, Gotham, how would you rank their seasons from best to worst? Oh, boy. Well, worst would be Gotham. Let's just get that out of the way. God, it's apples and oranges, man. It really is. I don't think it's fair to compare the shows to each other. If you put a gun to my head, I would say Gotham was worst. Then Flash. I probably would have rated Flash above Arrow for this season if not for this finale, but this finale knocked it down a peg. So Gotham, then Flash, then Arrow. You know, if you missed the stream from last week, overall, I thought Arrow this season was pretty hit and miss. I thought it was the weakest season that they've had so far. Not to say that it wasn't really damn good at times, but creatively there were a few missteps that I just didn't agree with, and overall, I thought it was a big step down from season 2, which was amazing. Yes, so season 2 was Arrow's high point so far, and season 3, in my opinion, just didn't match the bar that they set last year. So Gotham, Flash, Arrow. I'm gonna put Shield next. Even though Shield was my personal favorite, that's just personal preference on my end. They did have a big creative upswing in season 2. Now, I enjoyed season 1 for the most part a lot, but I do acknowledge that it had some problems and some hiccups along the way that they had to, and there was a process of kind of working the kinks out. And overall, I thought they did that in season 2. But from an all-over perspective, I think Daredevil was the best. I was well and truly blown away by how good Daredevil is. It is fantastic. And just from a writing standpoint, action standpoint, I think Daredevil set the new standard for action sequences in a superhero show. I think it beat Arrow. It was that good when it came to action. Just the characters were brilliant. What they did with the Kingpin just completely blew me away. So yeah, Gotham, Flash, Arrow, Shield, Daredevil. That's how I would rate them. And for the record, I will. There is a Daredevil stream coming. I know a lot of you have asked about this. I wanted to wait until the regular TV season was over because I was kind of at my limit with the shows I was already covering. So I will be doing a stream where we'll talk about Daredevil in depth. I don't know exactly when, but it's coming up. And when I decide when we'll be doing it, I'll post like a message about it. So I'll let you know. I just don't know when exactly yet. Excuse me. Okay. The Save Me One. What do you think of Matthew McConaughey being cast as the new Norman Osborn? As far as I know, that's not official yet. I don't even think they've cast Peter Parker yet. I know Asa Butterfield is in negotiations to play him, but it's not confirmed. And Matthew McConaughey, I heard a rumor that they were talking about Matthew McConaughey. I think there are much worse choices out there. I don't know if I necessarily see Norman Osborn in McConaughey. I mean, he's an Oscar winner, so if they cast him, I won't raise a big stink about it. He'd have to lose like the Southern drawl in his accent, but he could probably do that, I'm sure. It's a different choice. I don't know if I would have picked McConaughey as Norman Osborn, but why the hell not? I mean, I've got no reason to doubt Marvel Studios' casting abilities at this point. I mean, all their casting choices so far have been rock solid. And if they think Matthew McConaughey is the best choice for Norman Osborn, who am I to disagree? Okay. Ammo Lad 79, Marvel fanboy. Agreed. But I still have the ability to enjoy a good DC project when I see it. Batman the Animated Series, got the whole thing right up there on my shelf. Superman the Animated Series, got the whole thing up there on my shelf. Justice League the Animated Series, got the first several seasons up there on my shelf. Um, Arrow, been watching that. It took me a while to get on board with Arrow. I didn't see the first two seasons when they aired, but I got hooked on it last summer. Binge watched the whole thing, and now I never miss it. And I've been watching The Flash since it started. And yes, I have my problems with The Flash, as you found out tonight. But I've been watching it, and I've definitely enjoyed parts of it a lot, even though I had problems with the finale. So, do I prefer Marvel? Am I a Marvel guy? Yes. But it's also my opinion that you don't have to hate on one to enjoy the other. It is possible to enjoy both. The Dark Knight is one of my favorite movies. And I'm one of the few people out there that seem to genuinely enjoy Man of Steel. Even though I make no excuses for the problems with the movie, I still did enjoy it. So there are a lot of DC properties out there that I've really enjoyed. And I don't feel the need to hate on one just because I side with Marvel. Just because I consider myself a Marvel guy, I can still enjoy DC when they produce something good. Let's see. All right. Okay, Monty Dada, will you be talking about the NXT and Samoa Joe showing up? If you want to. I didn't see the NXT show, but I did see the video they posted on Twitter of Samoa Joe showing up and confronting Kevin Owens. You know what? Good for Samoa Joe. I'm happy for him. Obviously, this means he'll be making a lot more money now, and he deserves it. So good for him. I do worry about what they might do with him, about how they might misuse him. Because let's be honest, they don't have a WWE doesn't have a great track record in that area. But for night one, confronting Kevin Owens the way he did, it was cool. It was really cool, and the crowd, the crowd went nuts for him, so that's good. It remains to be seen what'll happen if and when Vince McMahon gets his hooks into Joe, because Vince doesn't really have anything to do with NXT as far as I understand it. So if he goes to the main roster and Vince takes one look at Joe and gives him the dancing fat guy gimmick, this could all blow up in Joe's face real fast. But hey, for night one, seemed like it was a rousing success, and I'm happy for Joe. Oh wow. Rots112. Also, I was kind of bummed to notice that Future Flash's suit is the same, just brighter. Would have been nice to see it with a little more yellow around the gloves and boots, feeling somewhat like a traditional Flash suit, since it is the Flash in his prime after all. Okay. I like. I don't like the yellow in a suit personally. That's just me. So I was fine with it the way it was. That gaming asshole. I actually liked the early New 52 because I like the 90s comic feel, but I haven't been keeping up much since. Dude, I didn't even try. Um, One of the things that always prevented me from getting into DC Comics was the really confusing continuity, because there's so many different like worlds and realities and continuity reboots that it's just impossible to keep everything straight. And then they did the New 52, where it seems like even the writers didn't know what was going on. And there's constant retconning and changes and things to be explained where no one seems to have a clear picture of what happened and what didn't. And it's I don't, the whole thing is a fucking maze. Um I think like Kara talked about this a little bit during like the Titans retrospective or something, where it was like the New 52 or oh, God, what the fuck was it? Like the new Titan series hinted that there were Titan teams before the current one, but then they decided that there weren't, so they retconned that in future printings or something like that. It's like no one at DC knows what the fuck is going on. It was obviously a reboot that wasn't planned out very well, that they didn't have a clear picture of what they wanted to do with it, and they're just making it up as they go along. So the continuity is a fucking mess. And that's one of the reasons why I can't get into it. It's just too damn confusing to me. Terp28. I don't think this finale was amazing, but I don't think it was utterly terrible. However, Barry going through with this plan was stupid on a legendary level. Thank you. Especially when his father, again, who he was doing all of this for, tells him not to do it. Not even his mother would want him to. Exactly. Barry did all this for selfish reasons, which I could understand if it hadn't been for the black hole situation. Because once he heard black fucking hole in Central City, that should have been the end of it. Because no matter how selfish or self-indulgent or narrow-minded or self-absorbed that you are, how can you possibly disregard that? How can you possibly put black hole in Central City out of your mind in order to go back in time and save your mother? You're putting the fate of the human race at stake to save one person. And if that black hole shows up, your mother's dead anyway, along with everyone else in the whole human race. Adam, what do you think of the new X-Men spin-off film being announced, The New Mutants? Could be good. Is the X-Force film still happening? I haven't heard anything about that. It could be cool if they do it right. I was a big fan of the original New Mutants run. I have a lot of those comics, actually. I really like that roster. Cannonball is one of my favorite characters. If they use the original New Mutants roster, which I hope they would, it could be all right. It could be really cool. Well, they could bring in some of the other characters like Boom Boom. I love Boom Boom. I'm hopeful. You know, I've liked most of the X-Men films. X-Men 3, let's not talk about that one so much, but you know, hopefully if Bryan Singer is involved on some level, it could be good. I'm optimistic. Lucky STR8, does Disney have any plans on releasing Daredevil on Blu-ray and the unaltered Star Wars? I'm sure they'll release Daredevil at some point. By all accounts, it's been a big success. I heard a report, I don't know how accurate it was, but I heard it was like the biggest series on Netflix when it premiered. And it's already been renewed for a season 2, so I'm sure they'll release it at some point. I don't know when, but I don't see why they wouldn't. And the unaltered Star Wars, isn't that out already? Didn't they release the unaltered Star Wars? I could have sworn they did that already. Um, that giving asshole. The thing I love about 90s comics and the reason I liked the New 52 at first is just that the heroes knew when to pull the fucking trigger. Bullshit like this would never have happened back in my day because the heroes, anti-hero or not, would have put a bullet in Eobard's forehead the second they caught up to him. No Eobard, no wormhole, no singularity, no muss, no fuss. Make all the jokes about pouches and bandoliers you want, because heaven forbid they have places to carry our stuff in an outfit, but Cable and his 90s cohorts would have rather shot themselves in the head than open a black hole over the city. Pretty hard to argue with logic like that. In fact, the whole story arc of one Youngblood alumni was that he fucking killed himself and went to hell to stop a cataclysmic event which at worst would have killed a few hundred people, not a city or a planet not a city or a planet, a few hundred. Oh, but no, we need heroes who don't kill. God forbid they should kill, but who think of nothing but triggering extinction level events to save their moms. Yay! When you put it like that, I can't disagree with a word you said, dude. I love the new progressive era of comics we're in. Can't you tell how not sarcastic I'm being when I say that? Yeah, in some ways, maybe we are due to a return of a '90s style action, '90s style anti-heroes. Maybe it's time for the Punisher to hit Netflix. Kind of surprised he didn't turn up on Netflix during this phase. Maybe in phase 4. Lucky STR8, do you agree with Marvel giving Agent Carter another show instead of giving that spot to another hero? Oh, I don't think that was Marvel's choice. I think that was ABC just picking the show up. And I don't see why Marvel would disagree with that. Agent Carter gets a second season. That means they get more money. Supposedly, there were rumors of another show being in development, rumored to be about the Kamala Khan Ms. Marvel. I don't see how that could happen before the Captain Marvel movie because that was where she was supposed to take her inspiration to become a hero from. It does seem odd that of all the characters they could pick, they would go with such a new character like Kamala Khan. I wasn't aware that Kamala Khan had made that big of an impression. I knew she was a popular character. I didn't know it was popular enough to get a TV series devoted to her. Maybe she is. Who knows? I mean, this is all just speculation on my part, but that's what I was hearing it was about. And it's not like it's been greenlighted or anything yet. Kamala Khan's powers seem like they'd be really expensive to do in a TV budget, but hell if the Flash can do half the stuff they've done this season, I can think Marvel could make it work. But yeah, I mean, I'm happy Agent Carter was renewed. I like the experiment they did here with the splitting up Shield into 2 separate blocks of programming and have Carter kind of fill in the space in between. I thought that worked really well, creatively at least. And I'm happy to see them do it again. Lucky STR8, do you like Totes McGoat's Paul Rudd as Ant-Man? I'm trying to reserve judgment until I see the movie. I didn't get it at first with Paul Rudd as Scott Lang. Now that I see where they're going with it from the trailers, I think it makes sense because it's a pretty inherently goofy idea. So this is a movie that has to have a good sense of humor about itself and maybe a lot of self-referential stuff and not take itself too seriously. So getting an actor that's primarily known for comedic roles, I think, is probably a good choice. And Paul Rudd is a funny guy. He strikes me as someone who probably has some dramatic chops that he just doesn't get the chance to use very often. So I didn't get it at first, but after seeing the trailers, I'm kind of into it. The trailers actually do look surprisingly good. I was very worried about Ant-Man, especially after Edgar Wright pulled out. but you know what? The trailers it looks good actually. I'm cautiously optimistic about Ant-Man, and I honestly I think Paul Rudd seems like a good choice from the direction they took it in. I'm optimistic about it. Um, Although how Ant-Man got a movie before Captain Marvel did, I still have no idea how that happened. That gaming asshole. Let me be even more obscure. At the end of the Stormwatch story arc, the heroes blew up their base and lost most of their powers to save the Earth from literally death at the hands of parasitic monsters. But oh no, they kill people and wear pouches. They're not nearly as heroic as Superman, who allows death and rape and murder every day, but refuses to stop it because people will become dependent on me. Jesus. God fucking damn, I miss the 90s. Shit like this never happened when Clinton had his finger on the button. Uh, in a way, I have to agree with you on that. There should come a point where killing the bad guy is justified in order to prevent all the crimes and murders that they would commit in the future. I mean, at what point does the "no, we have to be better than them" argument just not really hold water anymore? Um, Remember Maximum Carnage? This was in a, I think this was in a, yeah, this was in the 90s, probably late 90s. It was just like, it was something like a 14-part story arc in Spider-Man where Carnage escaped from prison and amassed, a group of followers like Shriek and Demo Goblin and the Spider Doppelganger and Carry On and a bunch of people, and just went on a mass murdering spree across the entire city. And it took them like 14 issues to resolve all this. And there came a point where Spider-Man, where they finally have Carnage, down, and Venom, who was working with the good guys, says that, look, the point is, look, we have to stop this guy. We have to stop all this murdering and all this carnage and this destruction and all these deaths. We have to put an end to it. And he tells Firestar, who was working with them at the time, the only way to put an end to this is to kill him, to just microwave the shit out of him until he's dead, until the symbiote is dead, until Cletus Cassidy is dead, so they never have to worry about this guy ever again, because the world will be a lot safer without this madman. And they almost go through with it. Firestar is about to kill Carnage and put an end to all this, and Spider-Man is finally saying, no, for the love of God, stop. We don't kill people. We have to be better than that. And how many people has Carnage killed since then? This was an unrepentant, mass-murdering psychopath. No, but because all human life is sacred, we had to let him live. And how many people has he murdered since then? If they had killed him then, they could have prevented all those deaths. And the world would be a much safer place without Carnage in it. But no, but they can't kill. No, because killing is wrong. There comes a point where the "we have to be better than them" argument just doesn't work. I would agree with that. The Save Me one, I forgot to put Agent Carter in the ranking. Wow. That's a tough one. Because Carter wasn't really a full season so much as a miniseries. And I do think it had. I do think that it had a case of prequelitis, in that it was hard to connect it to the current Marvel universe, and I'm not sure how relevant the whole thing felt in hindsight, because we knew that certain things were not going to happen. We knew certain characters weren't going to die, and so on. So ultimately, I'm not sure. The stakes could have felt higher in that show. but they didn't because we knew that certain things just weren't possible. God damn. Uh, Although creatively, I did enjoy it for the most part. I did enjoy Agent Carter. I enjoyed the story they told. I thought the acting was very good. Uh, the storyline was cohesive without any major gaping plot holes or characters acting like idiots. This is a really tough one, but I think I would put Carter in between Flash and Arrow. So I'm saying Gotham, then Flash, then Carter, then Arrow, then Shield, and Daredevil. If I thought about it for a while, I might change that, but this is just first impression. Okay. Monty Dada. DC is doing a revamp this June with new comic series where continuity doesn't matter. And all the comics look really exciting. They're doing more different titles, and they're going to be very easy to get into. Okay. Okay. I'd probably still be confused by this new 52 business. I will say that in like the first few months of the new 52, I would pick up a number of titles in the store and just like leaf through them. I didn't buy any, but I did take a look at them more closely than I would normally before the new 52. But now, I mean, the continuity has just become a huge mess, and I don't really bother with it. But if these are new titles where continuity is no issue, I might take a look at them. Honestly, I've kind of dumped single issues at this point. Now I just get the trades because it's easier. It's easier to like binge read if that's even a thing, and it saves money too. So I just get the trades at this point. Monty Dada, Boom Boom is awesome. I always liked Boom Boom. Always really liked like her and Cannonball together. Kind of bummed me out when that relationship ended. And she's a character that doesn't really get a lot of respect anymore. A lot of writers just don't bother with her, which kind of sucks. Because I always had a fondness for Boom Boom. Adam, should the CW pick up Constantine, and would you like to see him on Legends of Tomorrow, Arrow, and Flash? I'm not familiar. I don't know what Constantine's ratings were like at the end of its run. Although, I mean, they wouldn't have to be big ratings to be a success for the CW. It is. I wouldn't be against it. And I know Matt Ryan and Stephen Amell have been talking on social media about doing crossovers and having Constantine show up on Arrow. And if they did that, cool. I'd be all for it. If they wanted to bring the character over and have him guest on those shows, yeah, go for it. That'd be awesome. Constantine the series didn't leave me with a burning desire to see more of it at the end of its run. I thought I kind of enjoyed the series casually, but I wasn't like super into it or anything. I did think it had potential, though. I just think maybe the storytelling was a little flawed, and they could have made tweaks to it and improved it, and had the show lasted longer than half a season. I think they could have done that, easily enough. So I thought it was kind of a shame when it got canceled because the show did have potential, even though I wasn't as into it as I wanted to be. Hey, if the CW were to pick it up, if you were to guest on those other shows, I'd give it another shot. And it looks like that's it. Wow. Almost 2 hours talking about the Flash finale. Oh boy, I had a lot more to talk about that. I want to say about that than I thought I did. So I think we'll call it quits there. I think I've talked long enough. Plus, I kind of really have to go to the bathroom right now. So that'll be it tonight, and that I guess that'll be it for the comic show post show this season. That was the last show before they all went on hiatus. So I guess I'm all done with that. Although we do have the Daredevil stream coming up, and I told you guys I would do that. So that'll be coming. I don't know when exactly, but I will let you know. I will say it in a video, or I'll post a Twitter notice about it. But I'll let you guys know when I decide to do it, and it should be coming up, fairly soon. Aside from that, I'll also probably be doing a Game of Thrones stream when the season is over, and maybe something else. I kind of like to do a Penny Dreadful stream at some point. If you guys haven't seen Penny Dreadful, then you should. Just get on Showtime and watch it, because it's really fucking good. And aside from that, I'm working on bringing the Shield season 1 reviews back. I talked about this last week, but I put those on hold because I didn't like how they were turning out, and I wanted to just make them bigger and more professional looking and stuff, and like something more like what SF Debris does. But some things had to happen before I could do that. I had to get a new computer, which I have now, and I need some software for ripping DVD footage. Still need to get that. And I need to learn Final Cut Pro, and that's on my to-do list. I will get to it at some point. I don't know when, but I'm working on that. And so I'm going to hopefully get to that this summer. Fingers crossed. And I have a couple other streams coming up over the summer, and yeah, so we can look forward to those. And overall, I really liked doing the comic show post show this season, and I look forward to doing it again next season. Hopefully, I'll find a new way to do this so I don't have to spend quite so long just taking notes, because I actually spent a lot more time doing this and just getting ready for these streams every week than you might think. And I'd like to streamline that process so it doesn't take me quite so long. So we'll see. So I will work on that, and I will see you when I see you. For the Daredevil stream, Game of Thrones, also the weekly Impact review is still happening. So I will see you then. Until then, over, out. Be seeing you. Take care.